My name is Samantha Murphy. I've been married to my husband Ken for almost 14 years. Ken's younger brother Kenny, who's 3 years younger, still lives with their father. Their mother passed away about 20 years ago. One day, I received word that my father had suddenly collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. I hurried to the hospital, where my mother and sister had already arrived. They said he didn't have much time left. A few days later, my father passed away. Arranging the funeral, contacting people, there's really a lot to do, as anyone who's been through it knows. But my sister and I agreed to relieve our mother of as much burden as possible. After all, it was the death of someone she'd been with for many years. She didn't say it, but you could tell from her expression. She was trying hard not to trouble us. My brother-in-law also helped, and the day came. That's when something unbelievable happened. My husband didn't show up at all. Neither did my father-in-law or brother-in-law. I couldn't believe it. My husband had occasionally gone fishing with my father, and we'd all gone out to eat together, yet they completely ignored us. I stayed at my mother's family home that night, but I returned the next day and asked for an explanation. "Did you show up yesterday?" To this, my husband answered, scratching his butt. "For what?" "For what?" "My father's funeral. I was golfing with a colleague yesterday." "What?" I was at a loss for words. "Golfing? During my father's funeral?" My husband, without seeming particularly concerned, said something along the lines of, "Huh? So what?" I couldn't believe it. I even found myself wondering, is this man really human? "As my husband, you're supposed to show up, aren't you?" I was stunned. Then my husband said with a half smile, "Why should I go to a funeral for someone I'm not even blood related to?" I couldn't believe that I had been with this person who was standing in front of me for 13 years. I was truly disillusioned. That was not all. "What about your father and Kenny?" "Well, Dad was probably just lounging at home. And Kenny? He's hooked on some video game." "Wait, they didn't come because of that?" "What do you mean because of that? We're not blood related." I just couldn't make sense of it. I was on the verge of losing my control. Even though we hadn't seen him recently, this was the funeral of a man who'd done so much for us over the years. Plus, this was my own father we're talking about. My anger, sadness, frustration all came up inside me. This was the first time in my life I'd felt this way. The next day, I went over to my sister's house and told her everything. My brother-in-law was there too. They had the same reaction as me. It was a relief. I knew I wasn't crazy. It wasn't me who was wrong. I needed that validation. My husband, his father, his brother, the 3 men who failed to pay respect to my beloved father. I couldn't forgive them. Fortunately, my husband and I didn't have any children, and from that point on, I found every excuse not to get involved with my husband's family. I certainly didn't invite them to anything involving my side of the family anymore. I just didn't want them involved with my family at all. From then on, I pretended to be a good wife. My husband was the same as always, and didn't seem to notice the difference. About 4 years later, the day I'd been waiting for finally came. It might sound harsh, but my husband's father passed away. It all started with a sudden phone call from my husband. "Samantha! Samantha! What's wrong? You sound so down." "Just brace yourself. It's Dad. Dad." "What? What happened?" I quickly gathered my belongings. I had been keeping my things to a minimum for a while, preparing to be able to move at a moment's notice. And then my husband began making funeral arrangements. The news quickly spread to all of their direct relatives, his father's colleagues, and so on. I pretended to help, but I didn't go. I didn't help at all. I really didn't do anything. I left the house we'd shared, saying I'd catch up later. My husband probably didn't understand what was happening. That night, I went out for dinner and had a great time with my mom and my sister and her husband. Of course, I told the 3 of them that the funeral was today. We really had a good time. In the meantime, my husband kept calling. I completely ignored them. The next day, my husband called me again. "What?" "What do you mean, what? Where are you, and what are you doing?" "I'm just heading to work." "Why?" "It's my dad's funeral." "What are you thinking? Aren't you, as his daughter-in-law, supposed to help? Isn't it strange for all the relatives that you're not there?" He was really furious. I wonder why he was so angry. "You're at home now, right?" "So what if I am?" "Please open the top drawer in the bedroom. We'll talk tomorrow at 10 a.m. I said before hanging up. I had already placed the signed divorce papers and a note in that drawer. The note indicated where to meet and urged, "Please sign." I ignored the subsequent call that came in. The following day, my family, Ken, and my brother-in-law, 6 of us in total, gathered at the designated spot. "Samantha, what the hell are you thinking?" Ken was already visibly irritated. "Why the hell did you skip the funeral?" "Because we're not blood related." "What? What the hell are you talking about?" "So, if we're not blood related, I don't have to attend the funeral, right?" "What the hell are you saying? You're my wife, aren't you?" "He's my father, damn it!" "That's why. Since we're not blood related, I can do what I want, just like you did." "Me?" "That's right. Don't think I'll let you forget. When my father passed away, you were out playing golf, weren't you? Kenny, you were playing some game, right? And my father-in-law was just lounging around the house. All 3 of you. I thought it was strange, but you said it. You didn't come because you're not blood related. So it's the same thing. Even if my father went fishing with you, even if we all went on a trip with my father driving, even if my father financially helped us when we were buying a house, even if my father took everyone out to dinner, even if he's my biological father, it's determined by whether or not you're blood related. The same goes for your entire family. So I want to distance myself from you, that's all. So please sign here." My family listened in silence. It felt like they were warmly watching over me. Ken's face, red up to his ears, and his brother were both looking down awkwardly. The divorce papers were signed. All that's left is for me to submit them. I will communicate through my lawyer from now on. And with that, the 4 of us left. 2 weeks later, my lawyer conveyed my wishes to my ex-husband. I had decided to treat the portion my father helped us with as part of my share of the property division. Everything proceeded smoothly after that. Ken sold our house and paid me the sum he had borrowed from my father, with a bit extra. That was the end of it. My married life was completely over. That night, I apologized to my mother in front of my father's altar for taking so long to repay her. I was filled with guilt for having borrowed from them for our sake. My mother just smiled and said, "It's over now. You did well." Narrator's thoughts. Wowza! What did you think? See, marriage isn't just about the couple, right? It involves parents, family, relatives, siblings. It's really a union of 2 families, but, well, they found out each other's true nature. I thought the wife's response was very cool and collected. What did you all think? Please leave your comments. We're looking forward to your comments and channel subscriptions. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching till the end.